This is so breaking that it is only on Twitter. There are no articles written about it yet, but it appears as if today's Cardinals Brewers game is postponed, and that the Cardinals are self-isolating in their hotel. We'll give you more information as we learn the deets. But right now, let's go to the man who understands the devil's in the deets when it comes to college football. And that's my main man. You know him. You love him. He's on here every week, brought to you by Tex Morris, of course. I'm talking about my guy, Cole Cubelic. Cole, what's up, bro?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. I mean, all things considered. Are you a basketball guy at all? You watch any of those games last night? You on the Pelicans bandwagon?
I'm not on the Pelicans bandwagon, so to speak, but
Gross.
I did watch the majority of that game last night. I tried to watch all of Lakers Clippers, and I think I fell asleep right before halftime. So,
I mean, who else are you going to cheer for, Cole, if not the Pelicans? Geographically, we're right there.
I've never had an NBA team. I've always been kind of been an individual guy in the NBA. Speaking of geographically, I was a huge Shaq fan. When he went to the Lakers, I was done. I was like, nope, nah, I can't do that because I was kind of anti-Lakers my entire life. So I don't know. I don't really have a true rooting interest in an NBA team, but I do love the NBA.
Interesting.
So I'll be watching. I'll be dialed in. New Orleans needed that game last night. I will say that.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a late meltdown. We neither team looking great from the perimeter early on, and obviously with Zion being limited, I think that probably played a big part in why they weren't able to close it out.
I have a Chinese red Pelican. I just mean that I got it right when the ping pong ball drops. So it's from some knockoff China company. But I have a Chinese red Pelicans jersey that is a Zion jersey, and I'm entirely too fat for it. You're very skinny now, Cole, after all your Peloton. Do you want me to send it your way? Maybe you hop on this bandwagon?
I am definitely not skinny now, and based on what happened with my wife's surgery, the Peloton Ing took a little bit of a break. So I'm kind of trying to get back going into it. I had 5.5 weeks solo at home during the week with my 3-year-old, 5-year-old.
Whoa!
Which meant not so much Pelotoning.
Wow!
and it meant kind of getting back to my normal weight. So we're trying to work it back down a little bit, trying to get the diet dialed back in, especially now that we got some football in the books.
Well, Cole, you're a beast. So let's talk about football because yesterday college football is starting to take shape. ACC announcing early in the week they're going conference only, +1, whatever that ends up being. Adding Notre Dame, that's fascinating. But let's start with the SEC. They went ahead and followed suit. They come out yesterday. The presidents agree, according to SI, 10-game schedule, SEC only. What the additional 2 games are not clear yet. What was your initial reaction to hearing that 10-game schedule?
Not a ton of surprise. I think if there was any surprise, T-Bob, it was just that there was no room for non-conference games. You didn't know if it was going to be, hey, we'll leave one weekend open for you to have them, or here's the 8 or 10-game conference schedule. If you want to try to do something else on your own, you can. But I don't think you can really be surprised with anybody going conference only right now because this is going to be about flexibility and control. And you want to be able to have as much control as humanly possible with your entity. The ADs, the players, the schools, the stadiums, the geography, the travel, the testing protocol. You want to have as much control as you can. And I think by going through conference-only games, you're able to do that. Am I going to sit here and tell you that I think I'm 100% certain that none of this decision had to do with the ACC, the picture being painted, they sort of painted the SEC into a corner or backed them down into a corner or had them on the ropes, so to speak, or threw the paint around the corner and was going to make them walk in it?
Oh, that's what is that what 40 said? Yeah,
correct. Yeah. I'm not 100% going to sit here and tell you that I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think that I feel like the ACC was a little bit obsessed with scheduling Notre Dame and getting that deal done, and good for them because, yesterday we played the clip from Goodfellas on our show of, what it made me think of was Notre Dame and the ACC negotiating basically was when, F you pay me. You want to schedule? F you pay me. You want 8 conference games? F you pay me. You want a chance to compete for our conference championship? F you pay me. I mean, that's what that made me think of. And guess what? Notre Dame paid. We never thought we would see Notre Dame's knees buckle, and we did a little bit in this instance. They had to give a little to get a little, and that just hasn't happened much in their history because it hasn't had to happen, but now it did. So I think that maybe there's a little bit of posturing. Maybe there's a little bit of, hey, we don't really have to have you. And maybe there's just a little bit of Greg Sankey saying, hey, I had to do what was best for 14 teams and not what was best for 4 teams.
Yeah.
And in the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's kind of where my head's at, Cole. Like, I see 40 and others trying to drum up some drama around this situation, and I just can't find the angle. Like, I can't see it. Like, from where I sit, as soon as the Big Ten made their choice, all of this kind of felt like an inevitability for the exact reasons that you named. This is a control thing. Control the variables. It's why the bubble in the NBA, the MLS, is working better than what the MLB is doing currently. There's just less variables in play. So, of course, you want to keep it to a more codified, more geographically convenient sort of setting, and so you can kind of inoculate yourself as much as possible against the outside world. So, yeah, I'm not buying any of this. I mean, what did you lose? Clemson, South Carolina? Georgia Tech, Georgia? Like, what's the biggest game that was lost in going conference only between the SEC and the ACC? Granted, LSU, Texas may be the biggest one overall. But like, I don't feel that you lost a lot not getting with the ACC.
No, and I think that if you have to go back and look at what happened at the end of this schedule as well, T-Bob, with the dates that are open before the SEC championship game and the SEC championship game being able to move. If we're going to play divisions and there's a game that needs to be played that wasn't able to be played to decide who's going to go play in Atlanta or wherever that game's going to be, well, that flexibility is something that you're going to have. And if there's a non-conference game on the books, would you be able to get out of it? And I think people kind of don't understand with non-conference games, like the SEC can shuffle their teams around however they feel necessary. If LSU has an opponent that's not able to play and Missouri is off that week, they can call Missouri and say, hey, you're going to Baton Rouge to play.
That would be
or, hey,
great.
LSU's coming to Columbia to play this week. We're going to get that game in. It's going to happen. So you can't do that when you're playing ACC teams or teams from other conferences. They might not buy it. They might not buy that. They might not say that they're willing to do that. So the flexibility is going to be massive, especially towards the end of the season if you're trying to decide championships. And that's why I think you just, to me, like the ship has sailed on fans. To me, going conference only is a smart thing to do. Let's just try to get 8-10 games in.
Hell yeah.
And then just let the chips fall where they may. And I think we'd all be extremely happy if that took place.
Yeah, and kind of ironically, Cole, a 10-game SEC-only schedule is actually much more attractive than just a regular college football schedule from a pure viewer perspective. I mean, it's going to be a grind on these players. I mean, we were talking about earlier, imagine being Miles Brennan. You've already had this weird offseason. You have the biggest shoes to fill ever. And now on top of it, you got a harder and a more grindy schedule than really any of your peers. Well, I mean, maybe last year's LSU team in the 15 games did something similar, but still, it's going to be brutal. You're going from 8 to 10 games in conference. There's some ideas about how those next 2 games could work out. Do you just do the next 2 teams in the rotation? It sounds like they may try to do something a little more competitively balanced. Do you have any insight as to how they're going to assign those next 2?
I mean, my only thought, the only thing that I can think of that's fair, and again, the number one lesson that I try to teach my kids on a daily basis is life ain't fair, but would be to take the next 2 cross-divisional opponents that are on your future schedules or the last 2 that you most recently played that are not on your schedule now.
Okay.
That way, I don't know how anyone can argue with that. If you're going to try to come up with a formula from a winning percentage perspective, I think that only opens the door for people to complain even more and people to be more upset about the how and whys those teams got on your schedule. So if you can find something that I guess is already written somehow, somewhere, and just apply it to this individual circumstance, I think that might be the best thing for everybody involved because you're essentially just taking something that's already laid out and then applying it to the now. If you were to say, teams who had the best winning percentage are going to play teams with the worst winning percentage, or you earned the right to play this team at home, I don't know how you do that and make it anything understandable or somewhat fair at all. So for me, I think you're probably looking at being able to take the teams that are already on the schedule or either were on the schedule and then putting them in this year and just kind of going with it, because people are going to be unhappy no matter what. Some teams are going to love it. Some teams are going to hate it. Some teams are going to find a way to be mad about it. But the reality is you got to do it, and you got to find a way to go with it. I mean, are Alabama and Florida going to be pissed off that they have to play each other? Yeah, probably. But hell, Alabama also gets Vanderbilt. So, I mean, how mad could you be?
Yeah,
If it were your next two cross-divisional opponents. So, I mean, I mean, look at it from LSU's perspective. See, we talked about this yesterday on my show in Birmingham. Everybody obsesses with those A-plus games. But, like, yeah, Alabama, Florida, that's an A-plus game for both schools. But then you get Vanderbilt. Well, what about LSU? You get Kentucky and Tennessee. In my opinion, those are two B-plus games.
Yeah, I love them.
Those are two teams that have a chance to be pretty good.
Yep.
So what would you rather have? Would you rather have an A-plus and a C-minus or a D-plus game? Or would you rather have two B-plus games? I mean, at least give me the damn D-plus game or the C-minus game.
I agree.
I got a good feeling we can go get that win. So, I mean, it works itself out. You know, some are going to be better than others. Some might get a little bit of a benefit, but I don't know how anybody complains about anything right now. We got football coming. Like, it's a schedule. We're going to be able to play like this. I mean, here's the other part. It's a 10-game SEC schedule, man. It ain't easy for anybody.
No.
Nobody's getting off on this deal. Like, this is going to be an MFer no matter what. So, like, you know, buckle your junk, snap your chin strap, and let's go. It's going to be hell no matter who you are.
You want me to buckle my genitals, Cole? I don't think I understand. Is that like something you do before football games?
Figure it out.
Okay, I'll do my best.
It's medieval slang. You should know.
So if you do go, yeah, that's what all the knights did. This is known. It's in the chivalric code. Okay, look it up. If you did go next to opponents, Cole, it's hard. We'll get you out of here after this one. Is there a bigger loser in that equation than Florida having to add Texas A&M and Bama to the schedule?
Well, let's think about this for 1 minute. And no, probably not. I don't think so. But if we play this 10-game SEC schedule, how much different do we look at Texas A&M? Because I did a show earlier this morning, and they asked me for sort of my underdog sleep. Like, do you have a sleeper pick in the SEC? Well, that's been A&M for a while, largely based on the schedule. But if we're just going 10 SEC games, I mean, I think your mentality of what A&M has a chance to be probably changes a little bit, because the schedule is not what it was. So, like, I think, yeah, A&M is going to be a tough game. They have a veteran quarterback. They got some good players, the best group of tight ends in college football. And so, yes, that's difficult for Florida. And I'm sure when that was discussed, Florida was probably one of the teams in front of the pack that was saying, hold on now, this we don't like this. This is not good. This is not right. But I think that I'm going to view A&M as a little bit of a different team if that scenario is actually what ends up playing out. Or actually, no matter how it plays out.
Yeah.
The 10-game SEC schedule, I mean, I don't look at A&M we're looking at them as a 10-win team before. I'm not sure I look at them as an 8-win team now. Just because that's a very different schedule that you have to go through. Like, I think my opinion of LSU would change, because I just think LSU is set up better to be able to manage that.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the depth in the trenches on both sides of the ball, especially on defense, some of the skill guys that are coming back, the veterans that were there that just went and won a championship, like, I think mentally, emotionally, like, they're better prepared to go handle that. So this schedule was going to change my opinion on a few teams, because there are some that are just better prepared to go through it, and there are some that were going to greatly benefit from the schedule that they had before, and now they won't.
You've given me a lot to think about, Cole. These are some things like haven't even considered. You're right. I mean, this does change how you view teams. It also changes how we, like, what's the metric now? Is it 8 wins? Is 8 wins what the fan base should be happy with? Is it 9? These are all questions that we'll continue to explore. But, Cole, I've already kept you long. I know you have a ton to do. Thank you so much. Cole Cubelic, at Cole Cubelic on Twitter. Catch him on the SC Network, on WJUX Radio. You're an excellent father, Cole, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Love you guys.
All right, Cole, take it easy, man. Yeah, what do y'all think? What is the acceptable win-loss now? Because I've always I've been pretty lax with LSU. I've said 9-3 with 10-3 to get you to a bowl game. A lot of people have pushed back and said, I remember we talked to Peter Burns like about a month and a half ago, and he was saying, hell no. Like, I think it's like 11-1 that you need to be able to pull off. So what is that? What is it in the SEC schedule? Is it 9-1?
I think it depends on the team. I think it
For
depends.
LSU, let's say from the LSU perspective, coming off of a national championship.
9-1, yeah. That's what I'd go with. I don't know if 8 does it. I mean, 8-2 would be equivalent to 10-2.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe so.
That would get 8-2. I think would get the more level-headed of the fan bases would be, more level-headed members would be, I think, they'd be pleased with that, especially given everything that you've lost. 9-1, I think almost everybody's happy.
Yeah.
Like if you're not, you're just you're just kind of one of those stubborn whatever. I want to go undefeated every year anyway. You're like Hunt Palmer at that point. All you care about is a natty and nothing else matters.
But I mean, for somebody like Alabama, it's going to be 10 wins. Like if they don't get to 10 wins, it's over. Like they're going to be mad.
Well, I just think they just got to make the West, right? They just got to make the SC championship. And if that's 9-1, I don't think it matters. Then they'll get in. They'll get into whatever. If there is a playoff, they will get in to the playoff. As would LSU. If they were 9-1 and then won the SEC to go to 10-1, they would get in as well. So maybe that's the new bar then. 9-1. I can't wait to see what the new schedule looks like. Starts on September 26th. So if you're just hearing about this for the first time. SEC championship tentatively scheduled for December 19th. All right, when we get back.